Okay, are you all ready to talk about working together with partners? So we're going to go ahead and get started. I thought to get started, since we're here together with a lot of UN aficionados, I thought the best way to get people engaged in answering questions was to do a little UN trivia. So we're in the National Education Association building. We're always learning, so let's see what we've got. Okay. Who was the first UN Secretary General? I already heard someone yell it out. Oh, you can also tweet it. Renee would love that. But does anyone know? That is correct. Very good. Does anyone know this one? How many member states? 193. We've got a very knowledgeable person here in the front. Yeah? Yes, everyone knows 193 is correct. I think this next question is a little more difficult. Who gave the longest continuous? I'm impressed.
I was thinking Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton? No, not Bill Clinton. It was, in fact, Fidel Castro. In 1960, he gave a 4-hour, 29-minute speech to the General Assembly. So that's a little fun UN trivia fact. So we're going to go ahead and get started. As you probably all saw, this session is focused on partnerships and chapter events and how to really work with other organizations outside or in your local community. And I'm going to hand off the microphone to Barry Simon from the Southern California Division to get us started in thinking about this very topic.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We're going to come down here and give you all an opportunity to contribute to the creation of this next hour by sharing some of the things that are working or not working in your chapter. What kind of events are you doing? What are some of your challenges? What are some of the solutions to those challenges that you or other chapters have come up with? Like that. So, or who you're partnering with, and how do those partnerships come about? So we'd like to share something about what your chapter's doing and what's going on. Great. Carl, introduce yourself.
Carl Mars, I'm president of the Orange County chapter in Southern California. And first of all, I want to, Barry, come on, get up here. What is it that you do? You do the Global Forum. How many have you done?
This is the 7th year.
7th year. I was division president. It's too loud. Oh, okay. I will tone that. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. I was division president when we began this program. Actually, Barry was the one who began it. And he's carried it forward for a number of years, and I can say you cannot have a better person as moderating this event as Barry Simon. Barry, thank you so much for all the work you've done for the division. We really appreciate it. I did want to mention a couple of projects that we do that they don't raise money like the Global Forum does. We are looking for probably some insight from this session to have some that do raise money, but we have coffee talks that we've organized with our own council of organizations in Orange County. They've been extremely successful. Thank you. They've been extremely successful, and we have 40 to 50 members that attend these coffee talks. Generally, our last one, I think we had 50 members. It was on the problems of fighting global or combating global warming. We had a wonderful speaker, and it's going to morph into something else. We hope probably a community-wide group that will be an umbrella organization that will hopefully in Southern California enact and promote green energy and things of that nature. So this has been a very successful program for us, and we'd just like to pass that on. If you have a council of organizations, if you don't have a council of organizations, a local council is an extremely good way to go. We do have a number of them in Southern California and in Orange County. Thank you. Pardon?
Where do you host this coffee talk?
The coffee talk, actually, we host that at the Red Cross building.
chapters where in your town, sorry, I just asked you to talk loud. How many people have do not have council organizations in your city or town? Do not have council organizations. So many towns and cities are beginning to create those, because we all know that in most towns there's the Rotary, there's Kiwanis, there's maybe Physicians Without Borders or Doctors Without Borders or Red Cross and numerous other nonprofits. And if you can get leaders from those maybe to come and visit one of your meetings, you can find great partners to begin to develop these kinds of events with.
I just want to reinforce that point. So please come at 1:15 to the State Dining Room to learn about the best practices of these various areas councils and other forms of it, and share your good experience with us. So please do.
So what other chapters are doing programs or partnerships in your events, or have particular challenges that you're looking to resolve? We'll start over here, and then we'll go over to the other side. Introduce yourself, please.
Bill Matthews from the Dallas chapter and Texas division. We're melded together kind of because Dallas is in Texas. But we have found it successful to have our board meetings monthly, last several months, coordinating with local organizations that serve the kinds of people United Nations serves, such as domestic violence. We've had the Mosaic Family Services as one of our key, in fact, they were our United Nations Day program last October. And then also the Refugee Services of Texas, which is a local entity, but they deal with the UNHCR refugees who are placed in the Dallas area. And we found their stories are really compelling, and it connects us with the United Nations through the local entities that relate to them. So we found that useful. We open our board meetings to other people, and we'll have 15 to 20 other people in addition to the board members. It educates our board, number one, but it also educates some of the other people who see fit to come, and we've had quite a bit of interest in community from that.
That's great. Thank you. Gentleman over here. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Len Baldwin from Ohio, the Buckeye State, as opposed to Michigan, that was mentioned earlier. One of the things that I've asked, and I sent out a memo to all of you guys about chapters and what we're doing and not doing, was what has been going on and then what had to take place for changes. At Columbus, Ohio, really kind of before my time, it was all about a great big festival, the biggest in the city, metropolitan area, period, for 56 years. But things changed, and then all of a sudden our chapter was faced with, we're not about that festival anymore, and we dropped being the actual facilitator of that. So what do? I think for us, we're looking for answers that others are doing that are successful. I would only suggest that one of the things we're doing now that's become extremely successful is engaging every university in the state of Ohio, using university interns, involving them in the public sector, and then actually having them re-involved in the education system. So we have now built a chapter that is basically the new generation. And I mean that with all due respect. I only have one person that's older than myself, and the next age to myself is 20 years younger. So what's working for us is university interns. And I would reiterate to everyone here, I was fortunate to address the General Assembly of the UN here just a month and a half ago. And I heard there, and I actually made a note after my address, it was mentioned 67 times. It said partner, 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 and not reinvent the wheel, but use what's there. So we have universities. Some of you have different things. We're looking for the sincere comment about what's working, not all the fireworks about it, but then what did it take to make that work? Not just the headline, but so I'm just saying interns work for us out of universities.
Great. Well, that's a perfect segue. We'll take this one more comment, and then we'll go to actually how it worked, and we'll start with Paula in just a moment.
I'm Alice Dalla. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the Lynn County chapter, and I'm also the co-chair of UNA Women right now. We are from a smaller community. We're not on one of the big coasts with lots of opportunities and lots of people interested in international affairs. So one thing that we have done that we know people are interested in locally is August 26th is always the anniversary of the Vote for Women in America. And we use the list of supporters of ratification of CEDAW, Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. There are about 185 NGOs listed in support of ratification of that document. So we have invited all of the local groups, League of Women Voters, people that are not necessarily internationally interested, but they sure are interested in the Vote for Women. And we have now a group of about 12 organizations in town that put on a big celebration of women, of I get one of these blanks every once in a while. The Vote for Women on the 26th of August every year. It's a well-known festival in town, and that's gone on for about a decade now.
Okay, great. And the final comment here while we're doing this part of the evening, of the morning, is from my friend, Jean Charles, president of the Pasadena chapter.
That's what I was going to say. And in Pasadena, we do something have something going on every month. In the spring around International Women's Day, we partner with a group called 50/50 Leadership, going for women's equality in leadership positions, and we have Women of the World Awards, where women who do international work but are local people to the Pasadena, our area, Pasadena, Glendale, that area, are honored. On Human Rights Day, we partner with the city of Pasadena. So Human Rights Day in Pasadena is recognized. And there's another event that I can't think of, but maybe there. UN Day, we partner with a theater, and we have a documentary festival. And there's something else which will come to me when I put that on the microphone.
Thanks. There's one more comment here, sir.
Yeah. How many are familiar with the 2008 Best Practices document put out by UNA chapters? Good, there's a couple at least. But to piggyback on what the gentleman from Columbus said, the 2008 Best Practices document has a section on the use of interns. In fact, one of the best things that the interns did for Amy Furman, who is the UNA member in Missouri State. She's at Missouri State University, and she's in fact holds the title of the United Nations librarian, because there are 48 depository places for the UN to put their documents. And she writes about her use of the interns. And one of the best things they did was even created their website, a fantastic website. So these are really handy resources. And beyond that, take a look at the other 36 kinds of best practices in the 2008 document. Maybe Chris or someone can provide you.
Great, great. Thank you for those of you who participated in this part of this session, and I'm going to turn this next step over to Paula to share her comments.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Barry. And thank you, UNA USA, for inviting us to be a part of this panel. I'm delighted to see so many familiar faces. I've been around in UNA for a good number of years. And really both as a volunteer leader when I was an active member of the Young Professionals and became the chair of the Young Professionals, and then as a staff. Over the many years at UNA, we have been carrying out our mission of educating, informing Americans about the vital work of the United Nations and advocating for a strong US-UN partnership through collaborations. You can call them partnerships. I like the word collaborations. Everything that we do is the result of collaborations with our active leaders, members, volunteers, and the many organizations that they bring to UNA-NCA. It's a challenging time. No matter where you are, resources are limited. Even here in the nation's capital, we do acknowledge that we have access to many resources. Nation's capital with Congress, a number of international organizations, but there's also quite a bit of competition and many like-minded organizations that force us to really be strategic in the way we do our work, in find partners with whom we have a common goal, common agenda, and find ways to align what we do so we don't duplicate efforts, so we complement our programs. And at the end of the day, we can have a lasting impact in our community. Now, building lasting partnerships or collaborations really take time, and they can take many different forms. And a lot of the programs that we have today are well-established programs, but they really started very small. And I would like to highlight first the critical role that your leaders, your chapter leaders, members of your board, and if you have an advisory council members play in helping you set up a clear mission, a clear culture of objectives and goals. Once you have that, and UNA-NCA recently approved a new strategic plan for the next 3 years, and we have a set of clear goals and objectives that we want to implement, and it's going to help us mobilize our members and our leaders more effectively and also foster more strategic partnerships or collaborations. So it really starts with a clear notion of who you are, who we are as an organization, as a chapter in your community. It's an honest exercise that you need to be doing with your leaders. What do we want to accomplish? And once you have clarity there, then you can start identifying the gaps that you have, opportunities for collaborations with other groups that will bring resources that you don't have, that will bring expertise that you don't have, and be very specific in what you want to accomplish through those collaborations. One way to connect with other groups is to find networks, coalitions in your local communities that will connect you with like-minded individuals. The Ohio leader mentioned the critical role that universities play in every town. You may not have the World Bank or UN agencies or the capital, but almost everywhere you have a university. And how much you can accomplish and how much you can mobilize and activate the work of your chapter if you involve students at the university is pretty remarkable. As I mentioned before, I started as a volunteer. I was a young professional, still a student doing my master's degree. And it was through my experience working with the young professionals that we started partnering with different universities. And when I became involved in the chapter, we started an internship program. And now, every semester, we get interns from all the local universities, and sometimes from out of town as well, when they come to do a semester in Washington. We don't have resources to pay for these internships, but we put together a comprehensive program for these interns. And because we are a small organization, they get to work very closely with our leaders, and they value the networking opportunities, the mentoring opportunities that this relationship provides. They're not in the office to make photocopies. They see us all do that. And they really have a wonderful experience, and they are encouraged to take part of our active issue committees. And if they are passionate about a particular issue or program that they would like to take on, we try to find the opportunity to make that happen. having them work very closely with our committees. We have different relationships with the universities, which, because we can't pay for these internships, we often try to make agreements so these interns can get credits for their time at UNA. That's very valuable. And as I said before, we focus on giving them professional development opportunities through mentoring at UNA with staff and with leaders. The other important thing, in my opinion, to highlight is the role of your board or advisory council. Who do you have on your board? These folks play a critical role in bringing expertise to your organization, in bringing the kinds of skills that you need. We are very fortunate to have many of our leaders provide all of this pro bono, and oftentimes do work as if they were paid staff. And many of them also give us access to venues to be able to put together programs, to speakers for our programs. Many of them participate as speakers as well, and also put us in contact with new organizations for possible collaborations. It's important to look at your governance and who you bring to your board. Keeping in mind what I said before, if you have a clear vision of what you want to achieve, your goals and objectives, and you undergo your nominating process, be strategic on who you bring to your board, who you bring to your advisory council, folks who will bring this kind of connections and expertise that the organization will benefit. We do a number of programs, and most of these programs are heavily run by volunteer leaders. We're fortunate to have a small staff, and obviously that plays an important role in supporting these programs, but many of our programs begin at the committee volunteer level. We have committees on human rights, international law, peace and security, sustainable development, and I will talk briefly about our young professionals and what they do. And they put together programs, they bring new speakers, and through those speakers, we have been able to start a number of new relationships with local organizations. In addition to universities, a number of think tanks. This past year, through our International Law Committee, the last 2 years, I should say, we fostered a strong partnership with the American Society for International Law. Our committee put together an excellent program with speakers, and the society was very generous in providing the space for the event, the lunch as well, and we share resources. We promote the event together. In turn, this obviously increased the visibility that UNA-NCA has in this community and increase our membership as well. So every time you collaborate with another group, there are a number of things that you need to think about. Do a little bit of due diligence. Who are these folks? How we can partner? And understanding that you also need to be ready to play the role of a partner and be ready to do what makes sense for your group, for the other group as well. The effective collaborations need to be mutually beneficial. That's how lasting partnerships really occur, when both groups benefit. So that's why I mentioned earlier it takes time, because you have to get involved in these networks or coalitions to identify potential partners. Once you identify these partners, you need to do a little bit of research on who they are and what they do. And even before having an informational session to explore collaboration, already think, how we can strategically partner in a way that we benefit mutually. And that's how we've been doing it through our program leaders, program committees. The American Foreign Service Association is another group that we partnered most recently through our Human Rights Committee. Our Human Rights Committee also organizes an important event every year around around Human Rights Day. I know many of you celebrate Human Rights Day, and it's a truly community collaboration. The committee identified candidates for 2 important awards that UNANCA gives, and these are individuals who have been exceptional scholars and activists in the field of human rights. And the final decision takes into account not only their involvement in human rights and contributions, but also the organizations that they represent. Are we going to be able to increase our visibility working together with them? Are they going to be able to help us bring new members, bring new partners and sponsors? And way before the event happens, we work very closely with the organization of the 2 awardees to ensure that we have a wonderful attendance, that we get supporters, that we get new members. And so community events through recognition of local individuals, local leaders is a very good way to start a collaboration with other organizations. And very quickly, the young professionals have also done an outstanding job through the International Career Dinners. This is another way that you can also involve your leaders in the organization. Twice a year, we have dinners at the homes of board members or committee leader volunteers on a variety of international topics, and sometimes at offices. And this is a wonderful private setting where the young professionals get to learn about the speaker's career path and get advice. A number of mentoring opportunities happen as a result of that. And you know, for the last 2 years, this event has been very effective in terms of bringing new members, an average of 30, 40 young professionals and students per event, new members, and also revenue to the organization. We do charge a modest fee that students and young professionals are ready to pay because they are desperate for networking opportunities, for career advice. So keep that in mind, because it is, as I said, there's a university, there are students everywhere in this country, and this is a good way to mobilize them. We have a student representative on our board. I don't know how many of you have that, but that helps. The student representative is the liaison with the different organizations. So, and there's much more, but I'll cut it there.
Great. I just want to say well, Nelda couldn't be here today, so her husband is actually filling in, Dave, and he'll go for about 5 minutes of comments. I'll give about 5 minutes of comments, and then we'll have about 5 minutes for some Q&A for any of the 3 of us, but I wanted to give Paula the chance to go first and for you to hear her first, because she's, to me, a really untapped resource. She may be tapped out in Washington for her chapter and the work she does there. But as a resource for y'all to contact her with questions you may have on how you can make your chapter or your event bigger and better, I think she's the resource that's really the untapped source that we have. So thank you for your comments. We'll come back with a few Q&A here in a moment. So now I'd like to introduce Dave Reed to share some comments. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Barry. And thank you, Paula. It's my 5 minutes quickly here. Again, Nelda Reed is my wife. I'm David Reed, and I'm filling in because she wasn't feeling well this morning, and it's a husband's supportive role opportunity. So the Dallas chapter runs about 100 members. We are all volunteers, no office at all. Our mailing address is Bill and Norma Matthews' home address. So it's a really small, fledgling kind of organization, although we've existed for about 50 years, right? But through the ebb and flow, we are now about 100 members. Through the last 4 years, we've been, I would say, rebuilding, and we have, I think, very good energies going. And what we've learned is that every board member has a network of their own, and as Paula mentioned, board members bring a lot of value to the organization. And so through their interlocking board memberships, so to speak, or organizations, We find that there are many like-minded organizations, not 100% overlap by any means, but a sufficient overlap that you can focus on a Women's Day event or a UN Day together. A couple of events that Nelda really wanted to talk to are on International Women's Day in 2011. We partnered with Peacemakers, Inc., and that's a Dallas organization that clearly focused on peace. We learned that the Honorable Senator Timothy Worth, UN Foundation President, and UNA Executive Director Patrick Madden were going to be in the Dallas area for another event, and so we took the opportunity to piggyback on their being in the Dallas area to organize our event, and Timothy Worth was our keynote speaker that day, and those are some of the photos there from the event. It was really well received, and when I look back on the last 4 or 5 years, that was one of the highlights of our organization. We also have some community sponsoring organizations, although that we don't have this council as formally organized as I think we would like for it to be. But DFW, International Alliance, and it's a sort of an umbrella over about 1,600 organizations in the Dallas area, and we have many common interests. Thanksgiving Square and the Thanksgiving Foundation, it's a UN NGO there in Dallas, that we have so closely aligned charters and spirits, if you will, that it's a natural organization to partner with. Southern Methodist University Embry Human Rights Program is also very closely aligned to what we do. And in Oklahoma City, there's a UNA USA chapter that was, again, supportive of our this event here. These are some of the photos that we had for the event with the Women's Day 2011, and we have also in our community, you can see Chandler Lindsley. She is the granddaughter to Eleanor and FDR, right, the granddaughter. And so she participates in some of our events and brings some energy, certainly, to our history, and it's nice to include her in the events. The second event, we'll go into the next slide here, is just happened this past April, a couple of months ago now. The International Girls Cup Soccer Tournament occurs each year in Dallas, and through a professional connection, one of our board members, who's an attorney, met the soccer tournament promotion director. And so we were able to collaborate through this tournament, and since the girls and Girls Up and Girl Rising, there was a natural synergy here, but we focused on the Nothing But Nets, and it was an opportunity. Several organizations pledged $1 per goal scored, and we raised almost $2,000 in supporting the Nothing But Nets. And you can see this bottom left photo here is Bill and Norma Matthews and Anya, who was our board member, the attorney I mentioned. And then there was a Q&A session at an opening ceremony at Southern Methodist University, a really large venue, McFarland Auditorium, and Anya and the promotion company director, there they were able to have a little Q&A about UNA and Nothing But Nets, and I think we made a really positive impression on the community, on the many girls. You think about girls and coaches in a big auditorium, to hear this kind of message, I think, really was helpful to get our word out and make positive impressions. May pay off 20 years down the road, but it was a really great event. And it actually was sort of an opportunity to work with an organization that annually gathers for this huge soccer tournament, and several, 100 teams maybe. It was just huge. We were able to get on their radar screen so that next year we can do it again and perhaps even to a larger degree. 1 minute, thank you. So I guess in closing, what I would say is that there are the organizations you can collaborate with. There are challenges to this because there are always, I think, in our small organization, challenges around succession planning, you know, who the next board member is going to be, who the next leadership or executive committee can be. Similarly, if you're working with these other nonprofits, they go through ebb and flows with their succession planning, and you look up one year and the person that you used to work with at this organization is not in that role anymore, and so you kind of sometimes need to reconnect. But to the extent that you're able to get your board and their board together a little bit more, I think the transitions are a little easier to make. Use the days, adopt a minefields. I'm kind of looking back through some of Nelda's notes. And again, use the national staff when they are anywhere in your area, or if you can get a route, for instance, through the West Coast and have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday events and have the staff leadership out there with you. Similarly in Texas, Houston, Dallas, Austin, we are able, I think, to maybe get some synergy with national. Advocacy training is one that if you have an opportunity to bring some speaker in and invite these other organizations, again, with similar goals and spirits. How about that? Thank you. If you see Nelda today or tomorrow, tell her thank you. She did a lot of work.
Nelda, you did a fine job. Just so I can see about a third of the room. If I'm sitting over here, I can't see a third of the room, so I'm going to make my comments standing if that's okay with everybody. So just very briefly, as Carl mentioned very kindly a few minutes ago, as a Vice President for Resource Development for the Southern California Division, one of the things that we created, and I had a goal of creating a program where we could bring together business leaders, community leaders, members, non-members, representatives from the Consular Corps, et cetera, in a conversation of world issues. And we started the first year with our former director of the UNA, Ambassador Lours, as our guest speaker. We had 50 people, and we lost about $250. But it was our first one. It was a great event. Last year was number 6. We had instituted in year 3 the Global Citizen Award. The Global Citizen Award has now been presented to numerous people, whether it be a nonprofit such as Rotary. We acknowledged with the Global Citizen Award a Foundation for Women, an organization called CAST, the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking. We have acknowledged businesses such as the WNBA, the women's LA soccer team, LA basketball team, the LA Sparks, for their contribution to mentoring women in the local community. CAST for working with people internationally. So whether it was a local or international organization, if they were based in Southern California, they would be amongst our population of potential recipients. We acknowledged Gil Garcetti, the former district attorney of Los Angeles, not for his role as the district attorney during the O.J. Simpson trial, but more for his role since he's been out of politics as a professional photographer and bringing, he and his foundation bringing water projects and about 3 dozen sustainable water systems to areas of rural Africa, and the author of a book called Water is Key. And so and also last year we acknowledged Mayor Bogart of Pasadena. So in one event we could acknowledge a politician, Mayor of Pasadena, Rotary International, Sylvia Whitlock for her work with women as being part of Rotary, and Rotary's work internationally, and a business. We acknowledged Participant Media, who created the film Inconvenient Truth, Lincoln, and other projects. So whether you're honoring an individual, a nonprofit, or a business, you can bring all those partners into an event, recognize them. That might help bring additional people to the event, additional advertisers and sponsorships for the event. Last year, our event last year netted somewhere close to around $7,000 net. We're not curing cancer, we're trying to support the chapters in our area. So we're a division trying to support 10 chapters throughout Southern California. So that's part of what I do. And I find the best things for an event is for an event to look great, so have it be at a nice venue, for the food to
be presented great. Lousy food presented great is a whole lot better than great food presented lousy. And having good speakers, people that can enliven an audience. So they may have a great resume, but they may not be a very good speaker. And it's important that they be I think, a good speaker as well. We also do, I'm sure many of you do, like a save the date postcard. We try to save costs by having the invitation be a postcard, so that you're not having to do printing of envelopes and inserts and gluing and sticking and all those kinds of things. So trying to keep it simple. The old KISS, keep it simple, stupid, is an approach that I try to use on these, and it really has been growing into a nice event. This year, the 7th Annual West Coast Global Forum will be recognized in the Los Angeles Consular Corps, which is the second largest consular corps in the U.S. But wherever you are, you have retired UNA workers within a 50 or 100-mile radius of wherever you are, most likely. You have schools and universities that have an international department, or international economics, or some aspect of where you could bring a professor in as a keynote speaker at a major event. So there's, whether you're a big or small chapter in a big or small part of the country, there's great opportunities to partner up and really take your projects, your events, and obviously ultimately your chapter to a whole new level. So that's it for my comments, and I open it up for questions and answers from the floor for anyone up here. Sir, right here in the middle.
I'd like to say that Greater Milwaukee, we do a lot of things that have just been said. International Women's Day, we have a pretty massive program at the First Unitarian Church downtown. We have, thanks to Joan Robertson, an annual UN Day speaker at the Downtown Rotary Club. Although you can't recruit members at a Rotary Club, you know, you can't leave brochures there, so that's a little difficult. And we have big involvement at the huge annual International Folk Fair at Milwaukee, which is with our many, many ethnic groups. But my how-to question is, when I first became president of the Greater Milwaukee UNA, I tried to recruit all the international faculty in town that I knew of from my previous job as Assistant Director of the Institute of World Affairs, our World Affairs Council. So I sent out about 25 letters and brochures, and I got one response. We have about 14 institutions of higher education in Milwaukee. University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee is about just short of 30,000 students. Marquette University is well known. Milwaukee School of Engineering, Medical College of Wisconsin, Alverno College, internationally known. But, you know, I never got one email back from any of these international faculty. I did get one membership, a new philosophy professor at Marquette who I'd met at a conference at Emory. You know, as a courtesy to me personally, I guess he joined. But how do you reach these academic people who are always too busy, even though there's no time commitment? How do you sell them on the idea of joining the UNA, of becoming active members? Even the political scientist at UWM who sponsors the Summer Institute that students go to at the UN never answered my email. Olga, you know, because you're really successful at with the Salukis, right?
Southern Illinois University is every faculty member's position description has a percentage of 10 to 15% for community service. So when you approach faculty in the political science department, in history, international relations, international studies, many, many departments, agribusiness, they want to be involved, but they are waiting is to be asked and to make a relevant point in your letter of invitation that we feel that this is one way they can contribute to community service on an international front. You've tried, it hasn't worked for you. There's a personal call, visit, perhaps. And the other thing sometimes works, if you have not reached individual faculty, go to the chair. I have found out if you start at the top of the department, of the top of the college even, it can bear results. Just an idea.
Just to say that I'm Marcia Brewster, Westchester County, and I'm a former UN staff. We've reached out to all the former UN staff, and I get no response. So, you know, and we have a lot in Westchester. So.
Every no gets you that much closer to a yes. We'll go back here. We have about 2 more minutes for your comments, and then we'll segue into the next part of this session.
Hi, Ginger Stillman, Southern New York State Division. One thing that I find most effective is no matter what it takes, telephone the person. Make sure you get your research, get your phone call in. Don't bother to send an email first. It's really silly. Talk with the person, talk with their gatekeeper, the secretary, whatever. Explain why it needs to be done. And I think that we have gotten tremendous responses, for example, in doing the Universal Periodic Reviews that we just did, and in doing the post-2015 agenda outreach. It was really through the personal phone calls first and identifying who would be, you know, great to have with us. The other thing I wanted to mention that is a partnership that has now resulted in a new chapter in our Mid-Hudson Valley, and Steve Pampanella is representing that new chapter, so I'm very happy about that. But what started it was a partnership, informal, with the Eleanor Roosevelt Leadership Center at Valkill, which had one of our board members knew people on that board. They went ahead, made the introduction, and we have partnered for 2 years now with the center to host the International Human Rights Day event, with the venue being the FDR Presidential Library and Museum, Wallace Center. So we've got a great venue, well-known, central, people come to it. And to go out of our, because we were working from Westchester and New York City, didn't really have that many members in the area. What we did was call groups like human rights councils in the 7 counties that are in that region. We got started there, talked with universities. And that's how we've built it, and now we have this brand new wonderful chapter.
Burning comments or burning questions. Last 2, this gentleman and then over here.
My name is Zia Shamsi from Dallas, Texas chapter. And I heard Paula briefly mention about human rights. My question is, if any of the chapters or national chapter or the United Nations are doing anything about the human rights in Iran, is the worst human rights on the planet Earth. And the number of hanging is the highest in the world per capita. And the number of the conscientious prisoners are the highest in the world. And the minority Baha'is are the worst in Iran, which are like 300,000 to 500,000. How would you like to sit in your house and have prayer and Revolutionary Guard and take you away because you are praying in something other than what the majority of people are praying? And then there's nothing, I don't hear anything that anybody is doing. Now they're talking about nuclear issue. Fine, nuclear issue is hurting the economy. They are agreeing to get away from creating a nuclear bomb. But the issue is that they went to Khamenei, which is the leader, and said, well, you are asking about human rights? That's not part of our agreement. We can do whatever we want. We are a free country. Don't interfere with our issues. So they want to continue their cruelty and persecution of minorities continuously, and everybody is looked the other way. And what kind of human rights is this?
Well, I hope that you are organizing a program back in your chapter to raise these issues, to raise awareness and to get the discussion going. We're going to have an event, for instance, in about a week or so. It's going to be an off-the-record seminar on China and human rights. But we can also cover Iran. We have a very strong peace and security and human rights committee. I would like to emphasize what Ginger was saying to our first question. Follow up, follow up, follow up. There's nothing wrong with starting with a letter or an email to introduce yourself and your request, but then you need to make that extra step of calling and trying to set up a meeting. Nothing like a face-to-face opportunity to introduce the organization, why you think it's important to do what you are proposing to do, and the contribution that that faculty member and his or her university can provide. They're very busy. What has worked for us is that we have a number of faculty members on our board and advisory council. Not as many as I would like, but that helps. That helps with their own response as well as opening door or pushing other faculty. Having strong young professionals and students that are active in the local universities, even better. I know it's tough, but if you have, for instance, students that are active in your chapter or serving as interns, they're like the constituents when you go and talk to Congress.
If you...
Yeah. But you can be the leader who understands what motivates young professionals and recruit young professionals and bring them the space. When I joined UNA-NCA, there weren't that many young professionals. I was among the very few on our board, but the leaders at the time, Andy Rice, many of you might remember, George Garland and others, really gave us the space to grow and to recruit others to understand the kind of programming that was important to us. We all share the interest for international affairs, but when it comes to young professionals and students, bringing opportunities for career development, for networking, it becomes quite important. Have you tried to involve faculty in your board? Well, maybe one way of doing this, I don't know if you have program committees or, as I said, young professionals or students, but try to organize an event at the university. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that, yeah. Right. That is. Yeah. Absolutely, it is a challenge, but many of them appreciate being asked to speak at programs that will have visibility, particularly if you're going to credit the university and the program that this faculty is involved. So from speaking opportunities to perhaps offering to come and talk at their classes. I've done that a number of times, and it's been a good way to initiate relationships with the different international affairs.
The idea of the advisory board that you mentioned, I think, works really well. If you go to a professor or one of your YPIC students, their teacher or their professor, and offer them even a complimentary membership to be on the advisory board,
Great
they're
idea.
more likely to take your phone call and return your emails after that, because now there's an ownership, they're part of it. And if you can get 5 or 10 people from your community to be part of that advisory board, you've just expanded your network exponentially, because you have access to their network as well. Just one final comment here. We're running way behind on the next part of the program, as I think. And then we'll go here, and then final comments from the two of you, and then to Chanticleer.
Okay, this is real quick. You answered part of it, but the question about getting the faculty involved in that, we were faced with the same thing. Now we have tons of faculty, and the way it worked was we told the students that was part of their initiative. The students talked to other students, all of a sudden, students talking to faculty, we had faculty. We did not get the responses like yourself when we contacted faculty directly. Students did the job, but we
That's
also
why I
made it
mentioned
a
the
part
role
of
of the
their
student.
initiative.
Yep.
Great, excellent. Thank you.
And someone here was also asking about, getting speakers, folks from UN agencies. UNA USA is committed to help identify UN officials to come to your chapters, and we also here in Washington have the United Nations Information Center with lots of different UN officials that come from time to time. Folks are very friendly in that office. As I said, UNA USA will I know that that's a limitation that you have sometimes in other parts of the country, but reach out to UNA USA and reach out to other chapter leaders. Barry and I were talking about me going to California, and I hope, Tina was mentioning the best practices that were put together under Ed Almendorf leadership back in 2008. Hopefully there can be an effort to update all those practices and add new ones, because I know this is always a limited time for us to have this conversation, and perhaps until the next annual meeting we find other ways to stay in touch with regular calls or emails. It's impossible to cover it all, but I want you to know that I'm available to continue this conversation.
Thank you so much to all three of you for coming and sharing your sort of success stories and best practices, and thank you for everyone for your comments.